Have you ever tried a manifestation technique that sounded almost too simple to work and secretly wondered, is this actually real or just another internet myth? That's exactly how I felt when I first heard about the 17-second manifestation method. The idea sounds almost unbelievable. Focus on one desire for just 17 seconds, and you begin the process of attracting it. No long affirmations, no complicated rituals, no forcing belief, just 17 seconds of focused attention. So I decided to test it, not once but intentionally, consistently, and with awareness of what was happening internally. And what happened surprised me in ways I didn't expect. In this video, I'm not here to convince you to believe blindly. I'm here to share what actually happened, what changed internally, what didn't work at first, and why this method is often misunderstood. Because the truth is, the power of this technique has very little to do with the number 17, and everything to do with what happens in your mind and body during those moments. As you watch, I want you to reflect on this question, and feel free to answer it in the comments. Have you ever noticed how quickly your thoughts can shift your mood? Even within seconds? That awareness is important, because manifestation doesn't start with results. It starts with state. And before we start, if you enjoy content about manifestation mindset and how the subconscious really works, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this message reach more people who might need it right now. The 17-second method comes from the idea that when you hold a thought without resistance, the subconscious mind begins to follow that direction. But most people try it while distracted, tense, or secretly checking if it's working. And that changes everything. When I first tried this method, I didn't feel fireworks. I didn't feel instant excitement. What I noticed instead was something much more subtle. A quiet shift in how my mind responded to the desire itself. And that's where this story really begins. Throughout this video, I'll walk you through what the 17-second manifestation method actually is, and what it is not, how I tested it in real-life situations, the internal changes that happen before any external result, the mistakes most people make with this method, and how you can experiment with it in a grounded, pressure-free way. Halfway through the video, I'll also ask you to reflect on your own experience with manifestation. So stay with me, because your answers in the comments often help others more than you realize. This is not about magical thinking. It's about understanding attention, emotion, and consistency. So let's slow down, remove the hype, and talk honestly about what happened when I tried the 17-second manifestation method. When I decided to actually test the 17-second manifestation method, I made one important decision first. I stopped treating it like a magic trick. Instead of asking, "Will this work?" I asked a different question. What happens inside me when I focus on one idea for 17 uninterrupted seconds? Because here's something most people don't realize. The subconscious mind doesn't respond to words. It responds to emotional direction. So I started small. I didn't begin with a huge, emotionally loaded desire. I chose something neutral but meaningful. Something that wouldn't trigger urgency or doubt. That alone changed the experience completely. The first few times I tried the method, I noticed how uncomfortable silence actually felt. Holding a single thought without jumping ahead, correcting it, or doubting it was harder than I expected. Have you ever tried to stay with one idea without interrupting yourself? If so, you already understand why most people say, "I tried it and nothing happened." Because the real challenge isn't the 17 seconds. The challenge is staying present without resistance. First, my mind wanted to rush. It wanted to add conditions. It wanted reassurance. But the moment I noticed that and gently returned to the feeling of the desire, not the outcome but the state, something shifted. Instead of imagining results, I focused on how I would feel if the desire were already normal, calm, neutral, safe. That's when the 17 seconds stopped feeling forced. What surprised me most wasn't an external sign. It was internal. After practicing this consistently, I noticed that the desire itself stopped feeling heavy. It no longer felt like something I needed to chase. It felt familiar, almost boring in a good way. And that's important, because manifestation doesn't accelerate when you get excited. It accelerates when your nervous system stops treating the desire as a threat or a lack. Let me ask you something, and I'd love for you to answer this in the comments. When you think about what you want, does your body feel relaxed or tense? That response tells you more than any affirmation ever could. As I continued using the 17-second method daily, something else became clear. The real power wasn't in doing it once. It was in how it trained my attention. 17 seconds became a reset, a way to interrupt old mental patterns, a way to gently redirect my focus without fighting myself. And slowly, I noticed changes in how I reacted to situations related to the desire. I was less reactive, less impatient, less emotionally attached to timing. That's when opportunities started to feel more natural. Not forced, not dramatic, just aligned. Before we go deeper, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if this kind of grounded manifestation content resonates with you. We explore mindset, subconscious patterns, and alignment without hype, and I'd love to have you here. In the next part, I'll share the mistakes most people make with the 17-second method, including the one that completely blocks results, and how to adapt it in a way that actually fits real life. At this point, you might be thinking, if it's only 17 seconds, why do so many people say it doesn't work for them? After testing this method over time, and observing how others try to use it, the answer became very clear. Most people don't fail because they're doing too little. They fail because they're doing too much internally. One of the biggest mistakes is trying to force emotion. People believe they need to feel excitement, gratitude, or certainty within those 17 seconds. So they push themselves to feel something they're not actually feeling yet. And the subconscious immediately senses the pressure. Manifestation doesn't respond to performance. It responds to honesty. When I stopped trying to feel high vibration, and instead allowed myself to feel calm neutrality, the practice became sustainable. The thought didn't feel like hope anymore. It felt like familiarity. Another common mistake is checking for results right after. Have you ever finished a manifestation technique and immediately asked yourself, did it work? That question alone pulls you out of alignment, because now your attention is on absence, not presence. The 17-second method works best when it feels almost insignificant, when you don't treat it as a transaction, when it becomes a moment of mental alignment rather than a demand. Something else that matters deeply is timing. Trying to do this method while emotionally overwhelmed, distracted, or overstimulated often leads to frustration. I found that the most effective moments were when my mind was already slowing down. Early morning, late at night, or during quiet pauses in the day. That's when 17 seconds feels spacious instead of rushed. Let me ask you another question, and take a moment to really notice your answer. When do you feel most mentally calm during your day? That's likely your ideal window for this practice. Another adjustment that made a huge difference was letting go of specific visuals. Instead of picturing exact outcomes, I focused on a simple internal statement that felt emotionally neutral but aligned. Something like, this is becoming normal for me. No pressure. No timeline. No explanation. Over time, this changed how my mind related to the desire itself. It stopped feeling distant, stopped feeling conditional. And here's something most people don't talk about. The 17-second method doesn't manifest things first. It manifests emotional consistency. And emotional consistency is what creates behavior shifts, decisions, and openness that eventually reflect externally. You don't suddenly attract something because you thought about it for 17 seconds. You attract it because those moments slowly retrain how your subconscious responds to the idea of having it. That's why some people say it worked randomly days or weeks later. Not because the universe suddenly decided to respond, but because they were no longer internally blocking the experience. If you've ever felt like manifestation techniques work sometimes and not others, this is usually why. Before we move into the final part, I want you to reflect on this, and if you feel called, share it in the comments. Do you tend to manifest best when you're relaxed, or when you're trying hard? Your answer might change how you approach manifestation entirely. In the final section, I'll bring everything together: what actually happened after practicing this consistently, how to integrate this method naturally into your life, and how to use it without turning it into another mental obligation. After practicing the 17-second manifestation method consistently, without pressure, without expectation, and without emotional force, something very important became clear to me. The biggest change wasn't what showed up externally. It was how my relationship with desire itself changed. What once felt distant started to feel neutral. What once felt urgent started to feel safe. And that shift changed everything. Instead of thinking about manifestation as something I needed to do, it became something that happened naturally as a result of how I related to my thoughts. The 17-second method stopped being a technique and became a pause. A moment where I gently reminded my subconscious of a direction, without demanding an outcome. Eventually, external movement followed. Not in dramatic or cinematic ways, but through subtle changes. Conversations, ideas, opportunities, decisions that felt obvious instead of forced. And that's when I understood something most people overlook. Manifestation doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to consistency and emotional safety. The 17-second method works not because 17 seconds is magical, but because it's short enough to bypass resistance. You're not giving your mind time to argue. You're not giving fear time to take over. You're simply introducing a new emotional pattern, briefly, gently, and repeatedly. If you want to integrate this method long-term, here's what actually matters. Don't use it when you're anxious. Don't use it to fix a bad mood. Don't use it as proof that manifestation works. Use it when you feel calm enough to be present. Use it as a way to normalize what you want, not to chase it. You can do it once a day or a few times a week. You can link it to moments of stillness, before sleep, after waking up, or during a quiet pause in your routine. And most importantly, let it feel small. Because small, repeated shifts are what retrain the subconscious mind. Let me ask you one final question, and I'd really love for you to answer this in the comments. What if manifestation isn't about convincing yourself, but about becoming emotionally familiar with what you desire? That question alone can change how you approach everything. If this video helped you see manifestation from a calmer, more grounded perspective, please like this video. It truly supports the channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Magna Thoughts for content focused on mindset, subconscious alignment, and manifestation without pressure. You don't need to manifest harder. You need to feel safer holding the thought. And sometimes 17 seconds is more than enough.